Hello, my name is Simon Schmidt. I'm the host of BackPainMovement. My guest today is Balsom, an explorer of human movement living in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. Movement in all of its forms obsesses him, mentally as well as physically. Mark holds a Bachelor of Science in Sports and Motricity from the University of Fribourg. His search for learning led him to several countries, to meet many professionals, and therefore attended many courses and seminars of all kinds. Further, he also has 8 years of experience of working with skiers. In short, it is this wide range of practical, methodological, and technical experience that allows Mark always to have a piece of advice, an answer or where appropriate, to know where to lead his clients. Mark, welcome to BackPainMovement.
Thanks. Thanks, Simon. Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for having me here. It's so great here in your studio. It looks amazing. I'm impressed.
Thanks. Yeah, I tried to, like I told you before, it looks like a garage from the outside. I tried to make it as cozy as possible with the wood. It's all home built with friends, and try to have the fire on in the winter. And
it is cozy, and it really animates to play around.
Try to leave games around. Opportunities to move.
Yeah, exactly. So probably first, I think that's always in my mind is like we're living in Switzerland, and in Switzerland there are three spoken or four spoken languages, official languages, and there's always like this saying that there's like a frontier called the Röstigraben between the Swiss German part and the French part. Do you have this in mind, or do you see any differences between mentalities of the Swiss-speaking people and the French ones?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I studied in Fribourg, which was interesting because it's already a bilingual setting. Yeah. So half the classes were given in German and half the classes were given in French, which made it interesting sometimes. Because like when you're a kid growing up in Switzerland, I don't know what it's like in the Swiss German part, but in the French-speaking part, learning German is such nobody likes it. You got German class, you don't like it. So it kind of you start with this negative impression sometimes from school. Then going into Fribourg was interesting, especially I did it straight after military service. So I already was, and I was in Tessin for the military service. So it was this trilingual setting of being in an Italian-speaking place with German-speaking, comrades and all that. Then going straight into university in Fribourg, which is also bilingual, like I just said. Mentalities are different, for sure, but it's good to be placed in this multicultural setting and then learn to know these other mentalities. Sometimes you think it's different, but you don't kind of dig into it to see what they're actually thinking or how they actually act, which is interesting for sure.
Yeah, for me too. I love languages, so it's interesting to growing up in a multilingual setting. So you mentioned German. Are you still practicing your German, or nowadays, or how is your level of German today?
It's difficult. Like I said, now I'm occasionally attending different events in Zurich, but they're mostly led in English, and therefore the language becomes you speak English. So sometimes meet people. I met this guy a few months ago. He said, I hate it when two Swiss people start speaking English. And I said, yeah, fair enough. So then there's this traditional thing. We did that also in Fribourg, is that you always speak your language. And then, so there's these conversations where one will speak German, the other will answer in French. And it's just, at least you can express yourself correctly. Then whatever's understood is another thing, but at least you express yourself. Or sometimes it goes the other way around. So I try to speak German, and then the German will answer in French, which is good also.
Yeah, of course.
It's always interesting.
Great. Yeah. So, you are obsessed with movement. So, when was the first time you marked that in your life? How did it?
before being obsessed with movement, I think I'm really obsessed with training and how the body adapts to whatever you do or don't do. So yeah, kind of stopped moving since when I was not like I've always done different sports. When I was a kid, soccer and rugby and tennis and judo and all of those, and skiing all the time. I had this phase, I guess, around 10, 12 maybe, playing a lot of video games and that kind of thing. Kind of moved less. Still doing sports, but not playing outside as much as I used to when I was a kid. And then, so therefore, I had this phase of not doing something. And what happened to that? One day I realized, well, I'm not moving anymore. And that was the first also interesting adaptation. So then I started moving again, but then I really got into a training mindset, you know, running hard and doing push-ups and abs and pull-ups and that kind of stuff, and seeing how the body changes with that, and then getting into this kind of scientific, methodological approach of I do this many sets and this many reps, and how does my body adapt and blah blah blah. So I just sit down and prescribe myself some training sessions. I do that almost every day. I change my plan for the month, you know, just to have something to just enjoy that process and learning about training methodology. I just read books and scanned the internet, what I could find, but that was like high school time, even before military service. Which was kind of a big, once I started moving and training and being obsessed with that, I thought, well, how could I use all this? Like often it's like you're training, but what were you training for? And like, I'll just train for military service. I'll try and do something hard. So therefore that was my new thing. So I'd walk miles with a heavy rucksack. I'd walk from my hometown, which is Bavarois, to Yverdon, which is 20 kilometers. Every Thursday morning I'd walk with a 20-kilo rucksack. So I'd leave at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
And walk to school and get all my, I just brought loads of stones in my place. And so in front of the school there was this pile of stones. Maybe it's still there. I haven't been to check. So yeah, just seeing how that's really hard the first time, and then you just kind of get used to it. And one day I remember we had a PT, so sport, first thing on Thursday mornings. So I'd arrive in the Thursday morning after my walk, and we had swimming practice. And then so I was in this cold water, and I was starting to have cramps in my calves because I'd walked all that in the cold. It was winter time. Yeah, all these are interesting processes and experiences kind of built up to the whole thing.
I'm wondering how did your environment, your friends, your colleagues from school react to that? I think it wasn't like the normal kind of going to school. So how did it work out for you?
Yeah, I think I was always a bit of the odd guy, or the crazy guy or whatever. Yeah, kind of when you're a teenager, you want to stand out also in your way. Maybe that was my way of doing it. But I thoroughly enjoyed the process. For me, it was like back then, you know, I didn't know what I think I know now, but like sleep, I just decided wasn't useful. So it's like, while my friends were just sleeping until 7 before they get the train, I was up walking, so I was doing something, you know. That was for me smart. I'd like, sometimes we were talking about learning German. That was awkward, so I'd tape my German vocabulary, and then I'd listen to that while I was walking, because then after PT on Thursdays we had a German vocabulary test, and I'd just listen to it for 2 hours while I was walking. And when I tell people that, what a torture that must have been. You're walking in the cold with a rucksack and with German vocabulary in your ears. But yeah, so how can I optimize my time? And then obviously I was tired in the evenings, but as long as I could stay up doing things, you know. But all that led after, or maybe even during military service, kind of, I burnt out. And I was going too fast with everything. So I paid that price. I got that experience also, which kind of can tell me now. It's not just because I know that sleep is important. I can really say I've fucked up things because of not sleeping enough.
Oh wow, interesting. And could you at this time when you were younger already like motivate other people for a more movement or moving lifestyle?
Yeah, I think so. It's you definitely you can get influenced quite a bit when you're younger. So it's the same for the others. It's I'd go to school early, and then with another friend we'd just hang out at the basketball courts and just shoot basketballs all the time. He played a lot and he showed me a few techniques, and then I just kind of got obsessed of how many times I can do this free throw and get it in. And then that was another whole part of experiences that I got obsessed with dunking a basketball. I'm not that tall, but it's like, okay, well, this is interesting. Now I can work on how do I get explosive, and that was another huge part of research for maybe 2 years during high school. It's like, how can I get as fast as possible? And then understanding the stuff around strength training, which I wasn't really doing. I was always the body weight guy, like doing push-ups and pistols and all that. So I was getting creative with pistols. I'd do pistols on unstable surface with bands and dumbbells. And then I'd do, I researched so many things with that. And I would always go to the extremes, because that's how I do things. Just do them completely all out, and then see what happens. So an odd thing about that, trying to develop explosivity, is like I was reading on time to recover from different types of strength training. So like, if you do like lots of heavy eccentric things, it's like you get a lot of muscle soreness, and it takes a lot of time for the physiology to kind of adapt. And we were going away to Thailand with a bunch of friends. So I knew I had 10 to 15 days where I'd do nothing. So what in my book was the was the workout I could do, which would give me the longest recovery period, so that I was doing something useful while I was partying in Thailand. So and I read that it was this the longest recovery, 14 days to recover from, were these Russian depth jumps. So you'd like do some strength training. So I'd do these pistols, weighted pistols, and then it was at my parents' house in the attic. I'd climb on top of a ladder and just jump down in isometric squat. So you'd have to, from height, to hold the position. So it was like heavy, eccentric, dynamic contractions. And so I did those. I just need to smash my legs, because I'll be off for 14 days. And then so we got on the plane, and because it was a group of young people, drinking and all that. And then after that session, 10 hours in the airplane, my ankles and my calves were starting to swell up, because I damaged so much muscle, and things were swelling up, and I got up in time and I couldn't walk. That was funny. Another experience, so many things I've learned from that kind of thing. So I'd say I'm the first person I experienced things on. And then for sure, people would see changes on either my body or my performances and that kind of stuff, and then they'd try and, can you write me a program, or can you advise me how I should do this? And so I had no idea. I was just that time discovering things by myself. I hadn't started studying sports apart from my own research. Still in high school, and I'd write them programs and give them. And that was interesting. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, of course. No, amazing, interesting story. And nowadays, how does a day look like, a movement day of yours? How is it different from probably 10 years ago? Now is different than 6 months ago, which is different from 6 months before that. It's because I just kind of get obsessed with something and try to figure it out. I never want to I'm not that obsessed with any of the goals, because I'll just get it or not, and it doesn't really matter that much. It's more of what I learn while I'm doing it, during the process, which is the interesting part for me. Writing the program, sticking to it, and seeing adaptations or not, and then just going on to something else. So right now I'm training just once a day, and not even that often, maybe five times a week. And for me now, I've just gone back to basics, really, like strength basics. I'm right now doing another certification, qualification, in training studies with OPEX from the US, and they do also remote coaching with different coaches. So I started doing that also. Just figuring out some things that maybe I was sure I was going in the right direction. Maybe getting some other advice was really interesting, and that has been amazing. So I've not started for long, but it's been great. So this coach, Matt, his name is, he's making me work on
on the basics I'd kind of set aside sometimes. So like always talking about, you know, squatting and that kind of things. But now I've spent so much time in a squat, it's like I'm not even holding with any muscle anymore. I'm just on the joints, and I can stay there for hours, and it doesn't bother me. But now it's starting to bother me, because like after a while, if you're just sitting on the joints, it's good for some time, but then after a while, now I need more control. So now it's, you know, just tempo squats, not even that heavy, and yeah, that kind of basics. What else do I do movement-wise? I love the mountains. So like yesterday, even I was walking in the mountains, just up there in the Jura, in the snow, and in this beautiful weather. It's really nice. I love skiing also. So I do ski mountaineering. Go climb up with the skins, and then ski back down with telemark, the telemark style. Because like I kind of I'd done enough alpine skiing and snowboarding and all those. So kind of get something new, learn something new. And another thing right now is circus training. So I've a friend client who trains here, who used to do a lot of hand-to-hand work. So she's like more into acrobatics. And so hand-to-hand work is basically you have a carrier, I don't know what they call it in English, and then a flyer who will, it's like for instance you're standing and she's doing a handstand in your hands, and then from there you can develop all sorts of things, press one arm, and you can be on your back and things like acro yoga, and just playing around with that. And that's been done that for a year now. That was really interesting in the sense that I've loved discovering things, lifting weights and that kind of stuff, but now you're lifting another human body, and that's so much more interesting, and so much more I love lifting weights, so I can't say I can't even say it's boring for people. So it might be boring, but I love it. But lifting somebody else, you have this social thing, you have this contact with someone, and things are moving. It's not your nervous system and some dead weight. It's like your nervous system and somebody else's nervous system. So when you do something wrong, that person might be complimentary to it and correct it, or might do more of it, like kind of as a compensation, and then you can mess things up so much easier. And it's not always your fault, but you probably have some responsibility in it, and that's another really interesting process. So it's like you always want to say you're doing this, and then she'll say no, you're doing that. And so you can argue, or you can just try to figure a way, and it's really interesting, because then you're also trying to figure something out with someone else. And after years of training alone, also it was interesting to have that. And then so I'll do my strength training, and then see how that translates to carrying someone. And so it's like also an eye opener. Sometimes you think you're strong, and then you've got some light woman and you can't carry her in some different aspects, you know. Or when you carry, you accentuate different patterns, maybe some overhead pattern where you stick your ribs out and kind of arch your lower back, and then you do that so much more with someone, because now you're really trying to get into somewhere you find comfortable, because you have to get the balance and everything, and it kind of presses on some holes sometimes in your preparation. Which is fascinating.
Interesting.
Opportunities to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned strength, and I've read that like your programs, the things that you do with your clients is like strength, mobility, and movement. Can you tell us something more about like the 3-pillar approach?
Again, so that's what's happening right now. 6 months ago was different. 6 months ago was different before, just because well, first of all, I've only opened for 2 years, so I'm still learning, and I intend to still have still be learning in 20 years. So whatever I find works, I kind of keep for a while, but maybe then it's not what they need anymore. So obviously it's a group setting, so it's when most people have got it, I move on. So of course some people get it pretty fast, like anything. So I'll just get them to push things a bit further, or make things more complicated, and you just do your thing. Some people in the middle are getting it at the same speed I intended, and some people at the end still kind of haven't got it, so they're still working on the progressions, and then we move on. What I do is what inspires me in the moment, you know. I get inspired by different workshops I do, by different training I do, different things I feel or experiments, the seasons, the weather, whatever.
Oh, amazing.
And like if you want an example, say now you're asking about movement, strength and mobility. This cycle has been, the first week was like, the goal was how to lift something off the floor.
Okay.
Something like whatever.
Yeah.
You know, your kid, whatever. Here it's going to be something heavy or not, or something an odd shape or not. How do we approach this? How can you bend over? You can use your ankles, you can use your knees, you can use your hips, you can use your back, obviously. All these different shapes you can get. So first it was kind of understanding those different shapes, understanding, like I said, you can use these different joints, but how do these different joints move? How the knee is pretty obvious, but then the ankle is like, usually it's kind of, for most people, it's toes out and then knee caves in, kind of thing. How to just bring awareness to the different possibilities. The hips, they can tilt in both directions. The back can be arched or round or flat or braced or, you know, coordinated in some way. So we'd explore all these different things. We'd isolate these different patterns and bring awareness to them. Okay. Then kind of when I kind of explained this kind of hinging from the hips, how can you kind of hold your back and your core? How do you have to place your hips to hinge properly? How are the knees going to react, etc., etc. And once they kind of brought this awareness, we'll train it like in an endurance pattern. Like maybe I just have them hinge, like in a good morning position, and hold for a while. Maybe do something with the arms. Definitely some play. So like maybe they'd hinge down. I'll have some videos coming on social media about that. I filmed quite a few things. They'll be hinged down in a good morning position, and then the other person will move their hand around, and they'd have to follow the hand. So now they're holding a pattern, they're working on the endurance, and now they're playing with someone. So that's nice. And this person is doesn't really know what they're feeling, but is making them move kind of randomly or in a chaotic situation. So they kind of have to adapt and move, and all the while they have to understand what's happening there. So the idea was like, okay, you know how to set up your back in a perfect position, and we can learn how to do that with a barbell, but now you're going to be exposed to lifting your child, or you know, lifting something that moves, or something with an odd shape, or from a different awkward position. And so now you're kind of learning the principle, how I want your back, and then implementing that in different situations. So now they've built motor control, you can say, in like a strength and conditioning perspective, or coordination from another perspective, or understanding, or back intelligence. That's what I was saying. Your back is becoming intelligent, and therefore in another phase we're going to now we're going to start lifting something heavy and see how that reacts. Now you know your back, you know how to coordinate it, you know how to do the pattern, and then so that's obviously getting into deadlifts. So it's back into conventional things. So all this time in movement we are exploring all these different things. In strength we'll be strengthening the lower back, strengthening the hamstrings, whatever is needed for this thing. All the while, that's the goal. But then in the second phase, we'll do all the rest. It's always like full body. It's not like splits. For 1 month, we'll do this. It doesn't really make sense. So that'll be the main goal. And then as in second phase, we'll still do some squat variation, some push and some pull, blah, blah, blah. And in the mobility, obviously, some people don't know how to coordinate yet, or lack the mobility to hinge properly, or to use their back properly, or you know what can go wrong. So there in the mobility we'll take care of that. So that means you come into movement, you're exposed to something, and then I think I understand it, I need to get stronger in there. Or when I just lean over for 1 minute 30 and my back is burning, and I'm like, yeah, you guys want to come and lift weights, but I just make you lean over and carry your own trunk for 1 minute 30 and everyone's crying. So okay, you need to strengthen that. Or I can't even get into the position he's asking, I go into the mobility class. So it's like for 1 month we'll work on that, and there's different classes that suit different people. And then next month I'll choose something else, another game, you know.
Sounds fun to me. And it's interesting because it's like a movement, like grabbing something from the floor that you have to do probably each day, I think, several times.
Yep.
So that's like something you can directly implement in your everyday life. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, for sure. I try to. That's something else. In a sense, it's people need to. I want people to feel like what they've learned, they can implement it straight away.
Yeah.
That it's relevant to their life.
Okay.
And in another sense, I often have new people coming in, and kind of, I want them to feel straight away that we're working on things they can implement also. Yeah. So it's like, for people who are more advanced, they've already heard how you should lift something. Yeah. Well, they can go and work and strengthen that, and deadlift something, or deadlift something weird, or deadlift someone. Yeah. You know, that's a how can you make this weird, or change things around, or even just for fun. Yeah. And so yeah, just before we were working on the this counterlateral, right knee up, left arm up, and kind of, this is just walking or running or whatever we do. Most of the patterns are like that. And I just have people like do lunges across the room and coordinate with the arms, and they'd start going the same side. And so then I try and get them to jump in that position, see how they can produce force in that direction. And saying, well, now you can't coordinate properly, but you're still trying to go run. So you're lacking potential. So I this is why we're doing this kind of stuff. Trying to,
interesting,
help people in many aspects.
Great. What would you say is like the different, or the different question? Why is it important first probably to start just with your body weight to train, and as you mentioned, then in the next step you can, when your body is ready, probably you can begin to train with weights. Is it right like this, or?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. I like saying that because a lot of people, what I see is I get a lot of people who like to train but would never go in a gym. Okay. That's kind of the population. I get people who are farmers, people who, right from here from the countryside, they wouldn't go in the gym. I have a few people come from gyms and have messed things up and want to work in a different way, or I've just got bored with the gym, or they don't like the atmosphere in the gym. They've tried, they've signed up for a year and they've been 3 times and they don't like it. But most people, they wouldn't even dare going there. So what choices do you have to move when you don't want to go into a gym nowadays? You can go run for sure. You can go do your sport you did when you were a kid, but rarely you learn something when you're 30. Oh, I've never played tennis, I'm gonna go. No, you don't go do tennis, you don't take classes. Some people do, and I love that the mindset, but most people, it's too far out of their comfort zone. So what can they do? And I'm offering this for my area. It's they want to train, they've realized they've put on weight, or they've not moving properly, or their back hurts, and let's do something and try to offer that. What was your question again?
No, it was great. Just like, why probably it's important first to start.
Oh with the weight. So because they wouldn't go in the gym, they come to me and they say, I don't want to do weights. They don't want to do curls, or they don't want to seem like they want to do curls. I want to train with my body. It's kind of it's also like a trend, It's cool to train with your body and self-control and controlling my body, which I totally agree with. But sometimes you do need weight. So if you're trying to learn how to lift something off the floor and you train without a weight, it doesn't make sense, right? And sometimes they'll do a pattern, and then you see they've got the idea, but things aren't really working well because they're carrying 5 kilos and you can't engage properly with full power like you want to learn to with 5 kilos. So I'll just add weight now. And maybe they've only trained here for a few months or a few weeks, but they're already carrying not a heavy deadlift for sure, but at least some weight so that they feel some resistance, and then they can engage maybe the posterior chain properly and put power into the move. So for sure, some things like some auxiliary work, like if you're you want to your shoulder, like so often you get this hunchbacked position with the shoulders forward, and you want to kind of open things up so you can stretch things, and for sure you need to activate some other things, and a little dumbbell or a band will do great for that, you know, adding some resistance. So it really depends on the situation and then the what you want to work on. So I'm not against weights at all. I've got everything there for. We did some weightlifting and all that. It's just some people, they come and they can't even move their own body, so you work on that first. So definitely it's 90% of the time I'll use that principle, but I'm not against going in the other direction if I see the need for it.
So you already mentioned the back, so have you a lot of clients having trouble from back pain, or?
Yeah, I think it's a universal thing, right? Like most pains ultimately lead to the back or come from the back or whatever, have some symptom in the back for sure. I know you've interviewed a few people and you've seen this pattern, and a lot of people come in, I want to train my core because that's what they've heard, this the sexy thing, you need to train your core. And for sure in some setting they can't figure out their core, you know. So we do basic things like different things where you have to go right, left or something, and they're like, but are we training our core now? And I'm saying we're definitely learning to coordinate it in some sense. If the limiting factor for that is your strength, well, you're working on it. Maybe you have the strength, you just don't know how to use it or how to connect it. So people come in for that. Some people come in because they've clearly got, I've got back pain, or I feel my back when I'm doing the cleaning in my home or whatever. For sure, in the first phase, because it's also group setting, if it was a private client I'd do differently, but mainly in a group, unless they know they have something like a herniated disc or something obvious that's been checked up in a medical setting, like you've probably come across a lot with these back pains. Some things, there's clearly something wrong, and sometimes you can do scans all day and never find anything because it's somewhere else, it's in your brain, or it's just showing up from something from the knee or from the shoulder, like with this kind of X pattern through the body, or sometimes there's nothing really wrong, they're just lacking some movement patterns, if I may say. So just exposing them. In every class I do, like I said, I do this full body thing. I'll have a theme, but I'll still make sure we visit different things. So if the theme is carrying something off the ground, we'll still hang at some time, we'll still squat at some time, we'll still push in one direction, sometimes we'll still pull, we'll still play probably, or bounce, or I try to visit all these all the time. We work on something and kind of visit all the others and then work on something else. And usually just by exposing them to all these different movements, of course I can't do all of them and you can never do all of them, but at least one of kind of each type, however you choose to spread these types, then they come back and say, well, you know, I don't have my back pain anymore. And I'm by far not a back pain specialist. I was a bit surprised when you contacted me, and but for sure I'm helping people with the backs. I can see that. Sometimes I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course, when it helps, it helps. So interesting. Yeah, that's like, and are there any movements which you would recommend to each person? Like you mentioned, squatting, hanging.
Definitely a little bit of all, but it's so individualized, right? Because then the person will come to me and say, oh, well, I like to. A lot of people run, you know, they run and they say, oh, I don't have any muscles and strength. I want to come to your place. And usually these people who run a lot, what I see is like they've got into this endurance way and they've lost this explosive power thing. So like I was saying, they just work on the front of their legs with their ankles and their feet caving in and nothing with the posterior chain. And nothing really in the arms, no power. So just by doing some just basic rows on the rings and activating something here behind and some muscle in the upper body, just by making them realize they can how to get into a proper squat and maybe activating some stuff behind here or working on the ankles, then usually it changes their running pattern without them realizing. They get more powerful, especially like running uphill, where they'd kind of like a duck go in with their knees in and kind of painfully get up because they've just been doing endurance and never any strength. Now they'll start to bounce and then they'll feel better-ish, usually, you know. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So
did I answer your question again?
No, it's okay. I just asked if there are any like basic movement patterns that you could integrate in your everyday life to prevent or even get out of some pain situations.
Yeah, so like I said, it has to be individualized, and because of this group setting is never one thing that'll work for everyone. And by the way, sometimes I mention group and people are like, there'll be 20 people in the class and I'll just show something and everyone will do it. It's always small groups. Okay. Like I limit it to movement. Sometimes I go up to 14, but usually strength is only 8 people maximum, and usually there's less. There's like between 6 and maybe 6 to 8 people in movement, which means that when something is wrong with someone, they get correction straight away because you can see 8 people, right? So I'm always aware of what's happening in everywhere in the gym. So if somebody's doing wrong, you just go work on that, like we saw last time, or everyone just keep doing this. I'll just show something quick, and therefore personalize it in that sense a bit. What else? I wouldn't say one movement, but what I try to do ultimately is, because I take the person, say, out of the group setting and you do this, I'm kind of bringing them into awareness that this is maybe a faulty pattern, if I can say, or something that can be improved upon. So then they realize that, we're going to work on that. We're going to do squats. I'll come over, we're going to do a bunch of squats. And some people immediately go and get maybe some little weight discs because they know they still need that under their heels to go down in a squat. And so they kind of get independent in that sense. I don't have to babysit them all the time. And they kind of know what's not going right properly, and I'll show them this is doing great, but this is still to be improved upon. When you get a free time or before doing your rows, be sure to, I don't know, do some band pull aparts or something. You want to activate this behind so that it works better when you're rowing, because you're kind of hunching over forward every time. So they know they have to do that. So that we're going to work on this. This is the exercise, and everyone kind of goes their own way. And that's just so, I love that so much when that happens, especially now when I get older students. We're going to do this, and everyone just go whoop in their own direction. They all know what they have to do, and that's good, because I feel I'm empowering them to work properly on their own thing. If they were to move and go train in CrossFit somewhere, they'd still know how to activate things properly, or how they need to approach their warm-up and that kind of thing. So that's ultimately where I want to go. Then others who have back pain know that, well, if I do this before I lift a weight, this makes it feel better, or I don't have back pain so much, or that kind of thing. And obviously they can always step out if we're going to do something. I'm just doing my own thing. Remember my shoulder? Fine, you do that. And so it's kind of group, but like semi-private as much as I can, which makes it everyone can work on their thing for back pain or knee pain, shoulder pain.
Interesting. And what's like the age range? How old is your youngest and oldest client?
So I have a kids class on Wednesdays, where the youngest started at 5.5.
Great.
And then the oldest, I've definitely got like my friend's parents' age, around maybe some young 50, some ranging as 65. I had a woman 75. She was strong. She worked with horses, you know. She was a farmer, and we almost got her to chin-ups, you know.
Oh, really?
Nice and strong and all that. That was great to play around with. So yeah, it's like this different generations for sure. My friends and younger, like teenagers to 25, 30, and then their parents' age for sure. Some people come together, you know, with their parents, and that works out well. And with the kids, so much fun. So much
I can imagine.
The kids is like from 5.5 to 12, 13. And yeah, they're just a blast. 5.5. Sometimes it's like so it's only games. But it's kind of, I'll say I don't really want to do many things. Sometimes I let them play. I see someone do something interesting. Would you like to show that to the group? And then show it to the group. And how can we? And then I'll add rules and subtract rules. You know how they do all the time. They're like playing a game and instantly, no, that doesn't count. Why? Because you can't touch the green carpet. We said. No, we didn't. Oh well, let's do that. And so you kind of bounce on that because if you do the same game for more than 5 minutes, usually they get bored anyway. So it's like, oh, now it's this. Now when I clap my hands, everyone has to not touch the floor, and they'll do that. Or now so I've still got some wood, like from when we were building stuff. So I put all the wood all over. I've got pictures. Maybe I can share also. I put the boxes, the boxes, the big wooden beams, and the wood all over. You're only allowed to walk on wood. And then this guy, the 5.5 years old, he'll be the crocodile, and he loves it. He just crawls around, and if you're not on wood, he's got to bite you. And the way they move, like they'll balance on the beam, and then I'll say, well, you can't get bitten by the crocodile if you're hanging on something, so they'll jump and they hang, and so amazing. And usually I play with it because it's so much fun. Like you leave and you have got a great smile, and so much to be said with teaching kids. And sometimes I just want to bring the games we played with the kids for the adults, like as a warm-up. Like say you play I think in English it's tag, we say wolf in French, and so one is running after all of them, trying to touch them, and they can't be touched if they're hanging, so they run and then jump under the pile of bars, over a box, and then swing onto a rope, and like Tarzan over to another rope, because they can't be eaten when they're hanging. It's amazing movement capabilities. If you did that with adults, I think after 5 minutes it'd be a Metcon, you know, CrossFit metabolic conditioning, they'd be dead. So, which I do sometimes, not that kind of game, but similar games, and they get exhausting. And I go, oh yeah, you want to go do a spinning class, and you can just have fun with the other people, and you'll be exhausted the same way. That's interesting. The other really interesting thing with kids I find is that it kind of sometimes it's like looking into a mirror. It's like the way they act and what they do kind of reflects your mood or your morale of the day. And when I first done, you know, like you said in the introduction, I taught a lot of kids when I was ski instructor. It's like sometimes they're all over the place and they're exhausting and all that, and sometimes it's just because you entered the collaboration in that kind of mindset. So if you're tired and you pissed off, you don't want to, they won't know it, but they'll act upon it, then make you feel even more tired, and they'll go away. But if you're in a playful mindset, then they give you energy. It's crazy. So they can drain so much energy. Teachers are always saying they come home, oh, I'm exhausted, and some teachers, they come home, oh, tomorrow I'll do that and that and that. And I think if you realize a bit more that it's more about how you sometimes shine upon and how they shine back, it's so much fun. So if you play with them and have a smile, and they smile back, and then you're just laughing for an hour, and you've got energy for the rest whole evening, you know. So that's I love it. love it.
Great. And one thing that I tried to do last couple of months is like to sit more on the floor. Can you probably share some thoughts about this? Because I'm seeing you're still sitting in this, I do not know how to call it in English, but like
cross leg.
Okay. Yeah. And I still like, because I was a football player, so I'm still working on this.
These guys. We all know.
I made some progression, because when I started, I even could.
Do you want a cushion? Or?
No, it's okay. Thanks. But I even couldn't get down in this position anymore. So I'm already proud of me that I still can sit more or less in this position for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But are there different like positions you could
yeah,
sit
for sure. So I'm not moving around now because I have the microphone and I want to stay in the frame. But usually I won't stay here not too long. Then I'll just get bored and just come into this one or into this one. I'll just change all the time. I think what happened with that, I think one day I didn't, maybe my desk was too cluttered and didn't work on my desk, so I worked on the lounge low table, sitting down, and then it just kind of became a habit. And therefore one day I looked at my desk and like I hadn't sat on that chair for 6 years, so it's like, well, okay, so I'll just throw the chair out and keep the desk to put stuff on. And I just always worked on this low table. So therefore all the admin work, if I work 1 hour that day or 6 hours that day, I'm sitting 1 hour or 6 hours on the floor. So the thing I love about being on the floor is that you don't stay in the same position for that many hours. So now we have this thing, sitting is the new smoking, or now standing desks, but now people are having back pain and blah blah blah. It's all because they're not really moving. They're just staying. They find one comfortable spot and stay in it. So when you're on the floor, like you said, even if you're flexible, this one is comfortable for some time, but then it feels like you want to move. So it kind of, like we were saying, reflecting with the children, this reflects on you and you on it, and you kind of sit differently all the time because of that. Sometimes you'll squat in front of it, and from there all these different blah blah blah, just move around in the different positions, but more of how it feels. I don't think about it, how's my knee, how's blah blah blah. And that, I think, it does wonders for your lower body, because then you're not even thinking about it, you're not exercising, you have to focus on what you're doing, but you're doing all these things. In a first place, maybe having a cushion or making it a bit easier, so at least you can focus on your work, and then if you're just torturing yourself, then you'll just go back to the desk, which I understand. And sometimes I don't want to just say do it, because I've always been easily flexible. Sometimes I tightened up because I trained too much in the different directions, but I get flexible pretty fast. So it wasn't a huge issue for me. I'm not going to say I worked really hard to do that. Now you should too. But I definitely recommend you try it and try and see how you can implement it. Maybe you can work 10 minutes on the floor, then 10 minutes on your desk, or get round. And after a while, you've got no more blood, so you want to walk around and get some air, which is also a great thing, because then, for all the reasons you know. So I didn't even realize. Sorry, I was. No, it's just the interview here.
But
normal.
Exactly. That's why I ask. So for me, it's still like adaptation. I need.
Cool. The other thing is the jeans.
Of course they're too stiff sometimes.
So that's the other thing. People say, oh, I'm a scruff. I always got these tracksuits, but it's because I just want to move all the time. So if I had jeans, it's kind of like I feel like tightened up.
Great. Another thing is like, can you tell us about your influencers or your teachers? You were traveling the world and have learned from different people. Can you tell us a little bit about this journey of yours?
Yeah, for sure. It's always the same story. Like I'd always pick a new book up. It's like, I'd see this guy on YouTube. I'd go visit and learn as much as I can from them. And every one of them has given me either a lot of stuff or even just one thing, and that's made me happy already. So I must say, I don't need much to live. So everything I'm investing in is experiences, and right now I'm not taking holidays or stuff or going surfing like I used to love. It's all just seminars and workshops and traveling for that kind of stuff. It's what I love doing, and I think every time, even from a financial perspective, every time I put $1,000 into that, it's like I get so much new stuff from my gym. It's just really interesting in every aspect, like cognitive, intellectual, and then even financial. So I started during university. I went to the US to visit Coach Summer from Gymnastic Buddies. It's kind of how I got into it with Rob Wolf, the paleo diet guy. They were doing this event together, and so I went all the way to San Francisco and then up to Chico, California, and met with these guys. And then that was it. Once you're in that kind of, you meet these people, like whatever seminar it is, it's always the same people. Like, like you're here because some guy from Miami, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That you met in London, that I met in Thailand, talked to you about, and it's always the same. Then it's like I'd go to a, like, I don't know, a Movement event or another, like I said, event in Zurich and blah blah blah, and I'd meet the guy giving the workshop, and then add him on Facebook and see we've got like 60 friends in common, and I didn't even know him, because it's like it's always the same community. So like the Edo's events were like a huge influence for me. I did maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them, and the movement camp, and European movement meeting, and all the people you meet in those events. Then you go visit these guys, and everyone's got an interesting story and their own perspective, and you learn so much from all these different things. Lately I've been doing a lot of the Fighting Monkeys stuff. With Joseph, I was to their intensive in Slovakia, which kind of made me discover Eastern Europe, which I'd never been. Going to Slovakia in some castle and train with wooden balls, and that was amazing. And it's always so motivating also to see these guys. I don't know. Then some more specialized workshops, like weightlifting workshops, or like with Klokov, you know, the big Russian weightlifter. So I did an event with him in Zurich, actually. That was also motivating. What kind of other workshops have I done? All sorts of different things. Then it'll be maybe some more sports specialized things, like I'd still do a climbing course, or some track and field stuff with my old track and field coach, or all sorts of I just love learning. Or now more some dancing stuff, you know. So I did some private lessons of classical dancing, you know, ballet.
Interesting.
That was interesting also. It's I'm just open to whatever learning, like acro yoga lately or so. Did some classes of that. Circus stuff I told you about. So we're doing this hand to hand, but then in circus you've got all the other things, you know, trampoline, acrobatics, juggling, learning from them. A lot of stuff. All sorts, for sure.
Oh wow.
Sure. Or some nutrition sometimes, just adding a little bit of that. That's not really I don't offer it even as a business right now, because I'm still figuring things out, how I want to deliver that information, but I still do different courses and different certifications, just to keep accumulating knowledge on that. Using on myself and friends, but not really as a business thing yet. So
interesting. Wow. And why did you decide to open your studio here? Is there a reason for it? Or?
So when I was following a lot of the gymnastics body stuff, so I went over to the US quite a bit, and so after university I kind of had this opportunity to teach in Chicago. It didn't work out, different reasons. Also the Orange, the guy from Gymnastic Buddies, invited me also to teach some stuff in Awaken Gymnastics in Denver, which was Colorado. It's a bit like mountains and like Switzerland. It was all great perspectives. I was finishing university, no strings. I could go do that stuff, and then kind of, I don't know, something with Americans. Sometimes it's a bit I don't know, different mentality, and it's like always very business orientated, more than I'd like. And then it was also not a piece of cake to get the visas and the work permits and all that. So it's kind of, well, not sure that's going to work out. And I wasn't 100% sure, because when I'm 100% sure, I just make things happen. But maybe something kind of didn't make things happen. So I did another ski season as a ski instructor, so I could think things out. And occupy myself and get some money for the winter. Still working as a security guy, still working as a lifeguards, also by the pool. All these small jobs I've always had, like a fireman also, like a what do you call it, volunteer fireman in the village and that kind of stuff. And while doing these little jobs, I think about how I want to share now the things I'd accumulated over the years. And so then in the spring, after the ski season, it's like gather a bunch of friends, let's go train at the beach down at the lake over there. And we did that for a few weeks, every Tuesdays, then every Tuesday and Thursdays. And then it's like, I saw this space, it was far too expensive, still is, but it's like, let's just rent it. So it was completely empty, so just dusty cement, no lights, no water, no nothing. And okay, bim, put the cash in because I'd saved up, and to start renting the space. And little by little, the friends I was training with helped me. We built little things. We built the electricity up and the lights, and then the water, and then I really had great friends and great help in that sense. And there it is. Little by little, it's become home.
Wow.
So in this area, because this is where I grew up and I knew people, and that's where my friends were to start with the training. I didn't think about it too much. Like this, because it's close to the motorway, so it's easy access, the station, like you came by train.
So the intention for building this studio was that you wanted to share your knowledge, your experiences with other people, or was it something else there? Always the same. Myself, I love training. I love training with people, and I love giving some advice to people and see people improving. What I love even more is giving some input, sharing something I learned, and then seeing them make the process. I don't like holding people by the hand, do this many reps. That I find a bit boring. So like I said, try to bring awareness and for them to learn things, and then what I love is when another client comes back in and says, oh, well, you told me about that, I researched this, I did this, and this is the outcome. I'm like, great, there we go. Now I've given you the keys, and you're doing stuff. And so that is something I love that happens. And also the idea of here is having a cozy place where people finish work and they come here. So, you know, I try to make people feel at home. It's like, come in, take your shoes off, and you're at home. If you want to make tea, have a fruit, or move, you do your thing. Then the business side, I'm not too good at. It's like, have you paid your men ads? It's not my thing. It's for me, it's just people gather around and then we move. So I have this thing also because now I'm training like with OPEX also, and this is very much everything has to be very individualized and private coaching and all that. And I love the idea because I love the scientific approach. I test this is what's missing, you do that, and you get amazing results. It's crazy the results they're getting. But what's lacking is that you come here and there's people they're talking about their day and all that. Now we're finished talking, we train and they move and they sweat, and then they chill out for a bit, they come up here, they're in the hammock, and they basically have a good time, and there's good atmosphere. And I see a lot of people, because now I have my times, of course, I work later in the day, so if you work late in the day and you're a security guard, you don't see many people, because people during the day they work, and night you work, and you see people, no one. So then the social thing is so important for me. And people are moving better and better, and also this like I said in different events, I always get so inspired by the people who give the events, but also by the other people, and this knowledge that's shared all over. This from Fighting Monkeys, Joseph, he always talks about this I'm not here to teach you, you're here to teach yourself, and by watching also others, like that's how you learn. He brings a concept, he brings a situation for you to learn in, and then by trying it, by seeing other people try it, by seeing other people succeeding or not, and by yourself, and you learn so much in that sense. So I try also to bring these situations, and then people make sense of them, and also then the more experience they share with the people who start. So therefore, like I said, I try, if somebody's not getting things straight away,
isolate it. But sometimes it's even one of the guys who's chilling out, say, hey, I think you should try do this way. And therefore everyone's looking after everyone, and everyone's moving forward. So
a little community.
Yeah, exactly. This community, collective thing. And that makes me happy. And I see people improving, and especially if I didn't even have to give the input, it's like, person tried something, figured something out, tried something, didn't succeed. Somebody else that I taught previously has put an input, and then they've understood something and they're doing great. Or maybe I just gave one tip, and it's like cumulative. All these situations made something great happen, and maybe now they'll move that way for the rest of their life, get rid of back pain, get rid of blah blah blah, and
wow, fantastic.
So
is there, or what would you say is the most important advice that you have ever gotten so far? Could you say there's something in your life, a person or an advice that changed your life in a totally different direction, or just something that you are still remembering till nowadays that you can learn from it?
People talk a lot about these life-changing moments. I feel like my life is just changing directions all the time. I still have difficulty sometimes with having a vision, like long-term, or knowing exactly why I'm here, what I'm doing, like this purpose thing and all that. It's still a bit tricky sometimes for me. It's just I'm enjoying what's happening right now. So many people influence me. Like every time I go to somewhere and learn, it's like that's another brick I can put in. And I don't think there's been like one huge moment. Maybe when I was younger, like this phase from not moving to this friend who trains here right now actually said, let's go run. And we went for one run, and then it's like kind of from there to kind of from one small run to, I don't know, huge walks with the rucksack and military service and all that. Maybe that was one moment, but I can't even say I didn't move before because I was still doing all these different sports. So many people, like it's a classical thing to say, but you stand on the shoulders of giants, you know. All these mentors I've had, or people I'll never be thankful enough for having met them.
Great. And just one thing that got into my mind is like, I wanted to ask you about like generalization and specialization. Could you share with us your opinion on these two topics, like regarding movement? Like there's specialization. A lot of sports are really specialized, but so far of my knowledge, like the human body is built to do a lot of different varieties of movements.
For me, I'd say what brings me